What is beat block and how to solve it? How to fix beat block. So this video will give you concrete tactics you can use to get past beat block. The reason you have beat block is because there's three reasons actually. One is because, I'll say four for this video. One is because you lack intent. Imagine you have a blank piece of white paper and a pen, but you have nothing you want to write, no idea, no image in your mind, no sentence you want to write, no book you want to write, no goals. You're just going to stare at the white paper and just hold the pen in your hand until inspiration hits you. And so the problem is when you go into your DAW, you load up all your favorite plugins, you load up the best drums in the world, but you still can't create. It's because you don't have an idea to translate. In the older days, without boring you guys to tears about the history of music production, they would have the song already made before they went to the studio. And a lot of folks now, we just load up software because it's so easy, but we have no idea going into the software. And you're just sitting there waiting for an idea to strike. And that's why you have beat block, because you have nothing to translate or express. The second reason people have beat block, and we're going to get into tactics in a second. The second reason people have beat block is because they're deviating from their intent. So if you do have an intent, you have an idea in your mind. Let's say you want to make a trap beat that sounds like Lil Baby. Then you go inside of FL Studio, you start loading up plugins. You're like, oh, I forgot I had Nexus. Let me see what's in Nexus. And then you start digging down this rabbit hole of curiosity and experimentation. And then you end up making a beat that sounds nothing like what you started out trying to make. And that's because you're mixing up the experimentation process with the product creation process. And what I mean by that is when you're making beats and making music, there's a time for experimentation and learning, which is like going to the lab. I've studied chemistry. I was a pre-med undergrad for 4 years at Villanova University. And I went there on a science scholarship. And I could tell you, you can learn from the book all day long, but until you get hands-on in the lab where you truly experiment, you won't truly understand what you're reading. And so a lot of folks, they'll be going into FL Studio, Ableton, Reaper, Bitwig, Studio One, Pro Tools to experiment. Okay. And they're mixing their experimentation and then they're expecting a product to come out of experimentation. Sometimes the point of experimentation is to try an unknown and then find out it doesn't work. Okay. And try another unknown, find out it doesn't work. And so a lot of people get frustrated with that process because they're trying to mix the product creation, song translation, which is going into a studio with an idea and intent. They're mixing that up with the experimentation where stuff could fail. Pardon me. Experimentation is built off of iterations. It's built off of doing things over and over and over in different ways until you find the right way. And if you don't have a hypothesis to solve for or, a goal to reach, you're going to be frustrated because you're going down these rabbit holes of iteration without any outcome or analysis. So that was the scientific answer. Okay. The third reason you guys have beat block, and I'll get into the tactics in a second. I know there's people who have, short attention spans. They've already left the video. I feel sorry for you guys because the third reason we have beat block is because we lack knowledge. Okay. This sounds so simple, but you can't go out of key if you don't know how to go out of key. So for example, if I showed you guys the JD800, which you guys loved in that R&B video I just made, and I showed you this chord progression and you're like, what does that sound? How do you get that sound? It's not the sound itself. It's the chords. It's the music theory. And the reason I know this is because I've studied music theory to a level where I can express deeper thoughts in my mind. Whereas people who are just beginning, they might not understand what a seventh chord is or a ninth chord or even what a chord is yet. And so they can't express what's in their mind because they don't have the faculties to go up to that level mentally speaking. So I can, quickly draw in a 2-5-1 because I already know what it's going to sound like because I have that experience. I have that memory to recall and I have that reference in my mind. So I can go here. Let's pick the major ninth, for example. So this is called 2-5-1. Now it doesn't have the rhythm of R&B. I don't have time to set this all up. Okay, but then let's say you want to go out of key. How do you go out of key? Okay, we need to go to the second of the relative scale in this case, which is A natural minor from C major. We're going to go B diminished. Okay, and then you could use, I like to pull this down. So this is like this. Then we're going to pull this. Okay, and then we're going to end on let's say A minor ninth, a really nice extended chord. Now, how do I know how to move so fluidly with this? It's because I've studied music theory. I've taught music theory. I have courses on music theory. I've dug deep with music theory. I asked the questions, why does this work? What is this? Why is this way? Okay, so even if it doesn't have rhythm, the music theory is there. So we went out of key on purpose. I went from a 2-5-1. This is called a tritone substitution down, and this is going out of key. Okay, so let me point out all the stuff that went out of key. So we're at 2-5-1. This is second chord's out of key. Third chord is the tonic, and then we're moving into B diminished, which is technically in the key, but it's from a relative scale. So we're going out of key technically here, and all these tones are out of the key technically because we're moving into A natural minor scale. And so we went out of key on purpose, but without the knowledge of music theory, key modulation, extended chords, seventh chords, ninth chords, dominant chords. Why do we use dominant chords? How to do 2-5-1? How do you resolve chords? Without this knowledge, it's going to be very hard to translate the picture in your mind into your DAW. Okay, so that's the problem that people have, is the lack of knowledge. It's not that they don't have an idea. It's not that they derive, from their idea when they're making the beat. It's they don't have the knowledge to even communicate and express what's in their mind onto paper or onto your DAW. And so the fourth reason I think people have beat block is because imagine we have a blank piece of white paper, which is basically your DAW. It's a blank piece of paper, musically speaking. And you go into your DAW and you're just waiting for ideas to strike you. Okay. And that's, people without intent, which is if you love FL Studio, you're going to be on it every day. Every day, do you have an idea? No, not necessarily. So you might start experimenting to have happy accidents, and you find out you get inspired by the unknowns. So whenever you study something new, like key modulation, R&B tricks, music theory magic at busyworksbeats.com/music theory magic, whenever you unlock true unknowns, stuff that you overlooked or you didn't study before, you become excited because it's new. There's novelty to it. Okay. And when you start applying that novelty, that's when you start digging into inspiration. Inspiration is not this magical muse that just flies around the sky. It's when you study unknowns, you become excited. It's a biochemical process. Okay. We could dig all the way down to the science as far as dopamine goes and all these different reward centers. But we need to look at why novelty is so powerful to our human existence, and contrast is so powerful. Okay. Without, again, giving you guys a psychological essay on a university level, my ultimate point is that when you introduce inspiration, you're introducing newness, you're introducing novelty. And to introduce novelty, you have to introduce unknowns. What are the unknowns? When you learn from somebody, you're like, wow, I didn't even know about the key modulation that Game just showed me on the screen. Now I can go in and try it. And now I'm inspired because I just unlocked something new. It's like a video game. You're going to get bored of Call of Duty if there's no guns to unlock, if there's no, perks to unlock, whatever the thing is in Call of Duty. So the same thing goes with your music production. I just want you guys to understand beat block. There's reasons behind it. And it's not this magical barrier. It's a mental. It's because of you that you have beat block. If you have beat block because you're not inspired, it's because you haven't studied the unknowns. You think you're too good to study. You think you know everything about music production, and that's why you're stuck and stagnant. Okay? If you are, what was the first one? You have a lack of intent when you go into the studio. Guess what? That means you need to have ideas before you open your DAW. Here's a good exercise you can use. Charge yourself studio time for the time you spend in your studio. I guarantee you will only go into your studio when you have solid ideas. So let's say you wanted to run your own professional studio. What would you charge somebody to use your own studio? Let's say you would charge them $50 an hour to use your music studio. So now you charge yourself true money, real money, $50 an hour. So every time you're in your DAW and you spend 4 hours looking at the screen, you just cost yourself $200. Take that $200 and move it into an account that you can't touch and it's not easy to access. Now you'll understand the penalty of wasting time and not having an idea going into your DAW. Now, if you want to be in student mode, okay, now that's for making products. That's for making beats. That's for making sound packs, whatever your product is. Now, when you want to enter student mode, you need to open up and be receptive to learning. Open up to understand that you don't know everything. I don't know everything. Okay, there's a lot of people who are at the top who still don't know what made them masters. Master music producers who don't even know what made them skilled and mastered at music production. So you need to go into student mode. And here's where you go into your studio completely detached from results. You just simply set a goal and you do iterations until you get to the goal. If you don't get to the goal, you say all these ways don't work in order to get to my goal. My hypothesis was incorrect. And stop putting pressure on yourself to have a result when you're in experimentation mode. Okay, that's what I see a lot with producers. They go into FL, they go into Ableton, they open up Pro Tools, Logic, whatever the DAW is, and they are trying to learn something new, but then they put pressure on themselves to have a result at the end. And that's the problem. You're trying to attach to something that you haven't even found the pathway yet for. Okay, so those are the keys to getting past beat block. If you want to learn more, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium, because we have over 60 music production courses on music theory, mixing, FL Studio, Logic Pro. We're going to add Ableton soon. We have Studio One course in there. I'm going to add a Pro Tools one soon as well, for those who like Pro Tools, and different courses. So just go check it out. Music, business stuff, social media, YouTube course on how I got over 1 million subscribers. And I made that course when I had 600,000 subscribers, and it doubled. Our audience literally doubled since I made that course. And it's $4 right now. So if you go to busyworksbeats.com/premium, you can find that course. So it proves that my own information works because I used it and it works. All right, guys. So just go check out the website. You can sign up for free for a 14-day free trial, and then it's regular pricing if you choose to continue. Or you could just do a la carte, which is pick a course or whatever it is, a sound package, and just grab it today. Thank you for watching. It's Game from busyworksbeats.com. Peace.